very much known to everyone, but I am Sanchita. I am a faculty of this institute, a very young faculty, and I am happy that that I am able to start this journey in the guidance of my professor, my mentor, my supervisor, and somebody who has held my hand through thick and thin. And so under his guidance and under his blessings, I look forward to today's program. And I'm also working and learning and co-evolving myself every day to understand things. And as he correctly put forward is that we do not step into something in the knowledge systems. I've also explored local knowledge and from the perspective of understanding the Santhal community's livelihoods and the uncertainties that they've faced. So I'm talking about my PhD journey. I've done an ethnographic work in a Santhal community in Purulia, which is like a West Bengal and a Jharkhand border. And you know, life does bring you to certain such situation and times where you are introduced to the simplicity of the things. So it's that time that actually from that a period in my life, which was in 2014, that I understood about the simplicity behind the food, and obviously then my academic journey and my other kind of orientation helped me to understand the different intersections, and then why we need to question certain things and not look at the clear binaries. And rather look into or understand the gray area. But being very cautious at every time is that I do not kind of, take that knowledge and kind of try and say, oh, this is my knowledge. So no, to be very cautious about that at every point in time. And yeah, I'll talk about Bihun Collective, although it's like very new, but I'm still trying to find out and figure out that how do I kind of take that conversation and take that discussion in the realm, in the public domain. I'll talk about. So this is about Bihun Collective, and the word Bihun is basically, as I said, my journey started, and the journey of self-reflection also I think started while I was doing my PhD. I think it's a process that also lets you not just reflect on your field, but also about yourself. It's a process of introspection and looking inside. So Bihun comes from the word bihan, which is seed, used in the region of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and West Bengal. So that's what I mean. Seed to mean the seed that was sown in my head is then how to look at food. Okay, so it was from that perspective seed, but maybe I've still not able to do justice to in terms of how do I explore this aspect of seed. But Bihun Collective, I have tried to look at it as a people's archive, as a public education project. So basically something that it's not like a contribution, it's not like my own research, but it is also about trying to bring in people who are maybe working in that space or maybe are interested and intrigued in some time or the other, and who want to come into the space or to have a dialogue and want to engage. So I thought that, okay, I might not be able to, because being in the academic space, you have certain restrictions. You cannot always want want to go to the field and you're able to. That's not possible. So I thought that, okay, let it be my journey. It was mostly with my students here. So I thought, okay, let the students go to the field and I'm going to guide them. I'm going to mentor them. So that's when it became like, okay, let's do like a people's archive and not like, so it will be archive in the sense that like a life project. So it's never end to it. Like academics, if I write a paper, there's an end to that paper, right? But this is like a life project and a public project so that anybody and everybody can own it, and also something that I exist or do not exist and something can continue. So it's a project in continuity. The purpose was to have a grounded perspective, to be as nuanced as possible. So what I thought is that, okay, let me document food that is beyond our plates. I mean, we've started this discussion. Many of you have already, shared your perspective and your basically journey with this. So I thought is that why beyond our plates is because I wanted to, or rather I tried to look at food as a process, food that is part of a process and not as a product. So when we say food as a product, I feel that that is not real food. So, but when we say food as a process, then we actually talk about, okay, food that is real. So when I talk about the process, then it comes to me is that, okay, then who are the people who are part of this process? And then if I look at the people, then I feel it is about the right to life. And if it is about the right to life, it basically includes a right to sustainable livelihood. So then I thought of, and my introduction to livelihood is again because of Professor Sunil. And then as I got introduced to various literature and various readings from the theoretical perspective, but I tried to kind of also break down and see it from the people's perspective. So then the first intersection or the connection with food was the livelihood part. So there's this concept of life, the right to life part to it. The second part is that people who have built their livelihood, that is built not on destroying the environment, but building in the wealth of the environment. So then came the interlinked part to it, which is about the nature. So then I thought that we need to design food cultures for a different future, which is linked to safety, which is linked to nature, which is linked to livelihood, and which is linked to biodiversity. Now, we cannot value biodiversity in the wild if we don't value the diversity on our plates. Similarly, it's just vice versa. We cannot value the diversity in my plate unless we value the biodiversity in the wild. So we lose one, we lose the other. Culture, why this linkages with culture? Because culture has always celebrated the diversity through traditions and practices. And I've actually seen the people, the Santals, for instance, is that how certain norms, how certain rules and regulations, how their values has always been directed towards conservation, towards protection of this diversity. So they had restrictions on what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat it. So that is about the one thing that I wanted to do is that. The second is that it is an attempt to understand people's struggles to assert democratic control is that. So I asked this question, do people have a choice of what seeds to grow, what grains to eat, and in what quantity they want to eat? Do we need a regulation of food that does not make us contaminate and then clean up through expensive organic food type that do not first destroy the livelihood of small farmers and then worry about the food access, that do not take away the nutrition from our control in terms of what nutrition to eat or what nutritious grains to grow, and then talk about the nutrition that is deficient in my body and that needs to be supplied. That doesn't first endanger the biodiversity and then thinking of adapting to the pests and the climate change. So do we have, it is about the people. So I wanted to understand people's voices about the control. This is just one slide only I have. The next is about the sense of history, which is important here because, this whole thing that I wanted to do is that to understand the history. So maybe oral history as an approach I would want to use to understand what gave rise to the issues like the right to food movement being just one of them, to understand the concerns of farmers, of farm workers and the activists. And how do I plan to do this is this retelling dense history through storytelling, creating storylines around policies and lived realities. I did talk about lived realities and people, stories where people can identify themselves with. Stories told by an Anganwadi worker, stories told by a farmer across intersections, and I will be very careful about that. Because, and why about these policies? Because they affect our lives and people who doesn't have a say, because they're the one they are impacted, but they rarely have a say in it. And how will this help is because knowing this history and context gives insight into what can we do differently. Achieve food justice by ensuring the rights of the farmers, the workers across intersections, the gender, the age, the class, the caste, and everything else. So yeah, this is my journey, and I thought that, okay, how do I do it? Storytelling will be just the text format, which we have already done it through an academics writing part, but also about, I was really fascinated by one of my friend and of the institute, a co-fellow of this institute is behind conceptualizing this book, and she actually inspired me is that, okay, through comics, it's a very easy class, a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old can also understand. It talks about policies through comic characters. So I thought that how to experiment with the communication material so that it reaches the wider audience beyond the academic and the activist circle. circle. So I thought of, there is people like from Vasan, done. Okay. So basically trying to capture stories about what they eat. So this is a very simple recipe with lotus stem, and the recipe is available on my website, which is also shared with you. And this is these ladies, they are from Nuapara actually. They are making a snail, basically it's called guli moose, but it's I think it's a locust, or what do you call it in English, sorry. I mean, we don't have English words to all foods. So I try to show the collective thing of cooking a food. I mean, the food that ultimately cooked is like something like this, the same quantity, but 5 women cooking that food, okay? So yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress, and that's it. Challenges are many, but let's create newer pathways. Thank you. And the next to go is Madhuri Ramesh.